Hello everybody and welcome back to Texas Reloading Room. My name is Justin and today we're going to go over to the bench and actually do some parts fitment on a 1911. Now I will go ahead and forewarn you before we get started with this video, this is part of an assignment that I am doing for school, but more than that, it's one of my own pistols that I'm working on getting just right. So let's go ahead and get over to the bench behind me and see exactly what we're dealing with. Alright, so as you can see, the main thing that we're focusing on the bench here is going to be this 1911 pistol that was hand-built by I'd like to call him a friend of mine, and he is definitely a mentor in my gunsmithing experience here as I learn more and grow older. But he's the one who hand built this. Everything's fitted together perfectly with the exception of this beaver tail safety. And the reason that that is not fit together perfectly yet is because I'm the one who installed that, and me and him have been going back and forth to make sure exactly what we need to do to fit everything properly. So we're going to go ahead and take this apart. Now first thing we're going to do, there's no magazine. Rack it back. And it's got an empty chamber. The magazine is here, it's loaded, but it's staying over there. Okay, so to get this done, we're going to go ahead and close that, and I'm going to take this here on the front. I'm going to push that down and rotate it clockwise, maybe. Yeah, so we rotate that clockwise, oops, and that'll allow the spring to come out. Now I did kind of toss my spring cup over there, so anyway, we don't need to worry about that right this second. So what we'll go ahead and do from here is take our slide lock out, and then we can take the slide off. So this is all those pieces we just took out we don't have to worry about right now. The main thing that we need to focus on is going to be back here. And it's going to be the interaction. Let me just go ahead and show you exactly why we're going to be working on this. So, okay, watch. I'm going to depress the safety here, and I'm anchoring the hammer to make sure it doesn't slam the back of my frame. Watch very closely on the grip safety while I squeeze the hammer, okay? When the hammer moves forward, the strut actually presses against the back or the inside of my grip safety here, and we don't want that to move back and forth. So let's go ahead and take that apart as well. So the first thing that we need to do is go, after we've disassembled the upper, go ahead and take the mainspring housing out, which means we need to drift this pin out, and pay attention, one side's convex and one side is concave. We're going to go to the concave side and tap it out that way. Now if you have a bench block or whatever it is, great. I'm just going to use a piece of wood and a brass punch. So go ahead and take a brass punch that I know will fit securely through that hole, and a soft hammer, and we just tap that out. Alright, and now that the hammer's forward, it's going to be easy for us to pull that out, and this isn't going to fly backwards. Okay. And we're not terribly concerned about this at the moment. The main thing that we need to do next is actually drift the safety out. So now you have to be careful when you're doing this as well, because the safety does retain a plunger and a spring in here. Okay. It's a little bit stiffer than I remember it being, but that's okay. And I'd say the plunger and spring are probably the biggest reason that you'll have trouble taking the safety lever out. pulled the hammer back a little bit and it's coming right out. Just be careful that you do not lose these, okay? It's not hard to replace them, but sometimes you will have to wait a little while to get the new pieces. Now, if we look really closely at this, you can tell just a little bit where it's touching the grip safety there. And of course, if we look at the inside of the grip safety, right in that notch, you can definitely tell that's where things are hitting at in there. So what we just want to do is shave that down just a tad. So I'm going to go through these and pick whichever one I think would probably work the best. I think it'll probably be this one. Now, needle files are good for precision work. If you have to go down a lot, sometimes it'd be better to have a bigger file. But I am working with what I have to work with today, so we'll just have to have a little bit of patience. Okay. So we'll just whittle away at this slowly. And if necessary, we can also ease back on the hammer strut just a little bit, but I'd much rather work on this because the metal is much thicker. Okay. Okay, now I haven't taken too much off, but what I'm going to do now actually is, if I can find it, I have a Sharpie here. And this is almost like the exact opposite of how you fit a stock, inlet of stock. So we will actually, the part that we just did, I'm going to go ahead and turn that black. And when I put it all back together, if I start seeing something wear down, it will wear away the Sharpie and I'll start seeing light spots again. And that'll help me greatly figure out exactly which pieces of this need to be paid attention to. Okay, I think that's good. So let's go ahead and put this back together real quick. There we go. Alright, now theoretically we can check this without the slide on. So let's go ahead and depress the grip safety and squeeze the trigger. Now we've still got a little bit of pressure, so we're going to have to take it apart and do it a little bit more. But let's go ahead and see exactly where the contact point is. See what it wears off. Okay, now as you can see, even just messing around with it a few times, we already know exactly where the contact point is on the inside of this. Okay, so we're going to just take it down a little bit more. And it would appear we've got some contact on the bottom there as well. I'm just going to go ahead and give that a little bit of work. Now, just color it up again. And don't worry guys, these bits that I'm using the marker on right now, they're internal. You're not going to see them. If you're really concerned about it, then you, depending on what it looks like, you could use like some cold blue or something on it, but it's not a big deal ultimately. Still getting a little contact. I'm just going to go back and forth on this until we get a bit closer, and I'll bring you guys back when I have finished. Okay guys, so we're getting real close. Just about to finish doing a little bit more grinding here. And another thing I'm doing is I'm just rounding off a small portion here of the hammer strut itself. not going anything too crazy on it. Okay, let me shift the camera just a little bit here. There. Now you guys can see a little bit better. Okay. So the back of the hammer strut here, as you can see, I've been taking a little bit of material off of that. And even though I've done this about 7 times already, the amount of material that's being worn off is progressively smaller and smaller. And basically just what I'm trying to do is get it to the point where if they're touching, they're barely touching at all, and it's not moving the grip safety back and forth while the hammer falls. And that's one of the things about working on stuff like this. You just have to have patience. And I'm not going to claim that I'm an expert pistol smith or anything like that, but that's one of my aspirations, is to be good at what I do. And that's one of the reasons that I picked a 1911 to build for school. As much as I would love to have had a 308 or a 300 Blackout AR, I'd much rather build a 1911. I think there's a lot more practical experience to that. And that's essentially how it is when you're building a 1911. You fit things, you put them together, you check them, you take them apart. And you do that over and over again until the fitment is just right. Now there's a lot of people out there who will build 1911s and they'll fit them until things are good enough. Which is okay, whatever. This pistol was probably good enough. But there were always those little things that could be better. And that's what I'm striving to be. I don't want to build guns or repair them for people if I'm going to go through the whole just good enough thing. I want things to be top quality. And that's kind of how you get a name for yourself. The individual that I have been dealing with, that I purchased this one from, not only does he make incredible firearms, he is also an invaluable teacher. Even though he may not consider himself to be that way, informally I guess you could call him my tutor. He's always given me advice and thoughts on whatever I have at any point in time, and this was no exception. I brought it in today for him to look at for something completely unrelated, and he looked straight at me and he said, "You need to go home and fix this," which is what we're working on right now. So I only hope that I get everything done just right, and when I get back in to show it to him, he congratulates me and more than likely will give me something else to work on. So that's just kind of the way it is. I'm very lucky to have somebody in my life like that, you know. Very lucky. Alright, so we're getting ready to put this back together for what I think is going to be the last time. I've had it apart probably 15 different times just doing the same thing over and over, but like I said, it's one of those things that you just don't want to overdo, which is why I don't have the rotary tool on the bench here. I didn't want to overdo it. Now, it probably would not have hurt to at least start it with that, but I wasn't exactly sure how far I was going to have to take the material down. And if you're not sure, I recommend just not taking something like that. Go ahead and just do it by hand. It might take longer, but ultimately you'll be satisfied with the result, and you'll have a much lower risk of damaging anything. Everything's functioning quite well. There's still the tiniest amount of bump on this, but it's nowhere near as bad as it was. But you guys get the general idea of exactly what we were doing to this, and I am going to go ahead and finish it up without adding more time to this. But like I said, you guys know what I've been working on here. You know the basic process. And thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel down there below the bottom left of the video. And leave me a thumbs up if you like what you saw. But once again, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.